Hi, this is Mike, and this is my opportunity to comment on the public hearing of the Trails to Yellowstone that I attended last week. And as I go through some of the points that were made at the hearing, I just want to say that it looks like the local people are going to end up on the losing end of several of the dynamics of this particular development. So with that, here's some of my thoughts about the project.
The land that I'm speaking of is 8 miles west of the lower end, of the south end of Palisades Reservoir. It's totally surrounded by Forest Service. It's a nice piece of property. We've attempted not to develop it because there's a resident elk herd on it, and just a lot of amenities that are natural and nice.
My first question is, how do you try not to develop something for 20 years? If there's a good enough deal that comes around and it makes sense for you and it makes sense for the area, you do it. And if it doesn't work, then you don't do the development. So it's not a matter of trying to help the greater good. It's just a matter of the property that they own isn't workable.
We have seen in Island Park here in the 23 years that I've been here as a full-time resident that with many land trades that have been done for prime real estate in Idaho, in Island Park, even in our interior here where we've had wetlands traded for massive amounts of great wooded prime Island Park real estate. And it appears to me that we're looking at the same thing again here in a land trade of 320 acres, 160 of which you just said was primarily wetland, so undevelopable land.
As I listened to the gentleman talk about the pristine habitat of the property at Palisades, I could only think of the fact that, okay, well, you like that habitat and that's pristine, but you're willing to bulldoze the habitat over here. What's the difference? Other than the fact that half of your habitat's wetlands and the government won't let you develop it. So, you know, Joe made a great point that it's land that a lot of it they can't use because the government won't let them, and so they're trying to figure a way to have the taxpayers bail them out and give them something else that they can use 100% of the land.
We were told that they were not going to be able to permit or extend the permit on the landfill after so many years. And I believe you can correct me, I think the year 16 my mind. If that land were going to private ownership, that private entity could work with Fremont County and extend that landfill or transfer station to perpetuity. So it was a benefit immediately to Island Park and to Fremont County.
When it comes to landfill, they're talking about how they can license the landfill in perpetuity. But my question is, if you're going to do a multi-million-dollar project, are you really going to want to have a dump right next door? For any of us that have been to the landfill, it's hard to believe that between the seagulls and the seagull droppings and the smell, that's going to be real workable for this multi-million-dollar project to have it next door. So if you notice that when he talks about the landfill, he talks about either maintaining the landfill or creating a staging station, which is simply, we'll put in some dumpsters and let you guys pay to haul the garbage down the hill to a dump someplace else.
Just to give you an idea, Trails to Yellowstone, Yellowstone Development Company, are subsidiaries of World Trails Incorporated at Wyoming LLC. And this is all stimulated due to tourism in the Lincoln County, Wyoming area, trying to figure out how to stop tourists. Not stop them from coming through there, but stop them going through at about 120 miles an hour. So in looking, we found out there's a lot of buses, and there's just a lot of traffic. Short of throwing out spikes, we didn't know how to stop them. Well, we think we kind of figured it out.
You just told us that you come from Wyoming? Why don't you put this in Wyoming then? You don't want those buses coming to your house, do you? At all. You just sat there and told me that you have a problem with transportation in Wyoming. So you're gonna take your problem and put it in Idaho, is what you just said.
This whole idea of rerouting traffic from the Jackson Hole area up through Island Park because the Wyoming residents are tired of people speeding through is great for Jackson Hole, you know, and the high dollar guys that live there. But for the people that live here, it's not going to be better. It's just going to be more congested. And that's definitely a win-lose situation. There's no upside to that for us at all.
What we need is managed tourism inside and outside the park boundaries. And I think it needs to be stressed more outside than inside of the park. Because the more congestion you have, the more facilities you have for housing, you know, hotel rooms, restaurants and all that stuff, the more unattractive that area is going to become.
When they talk about the idea of as they continue to build inside the park, it detracts from the beauty of the park. Well, we consider Island Park extremely beautiful. I mean, I've been coming up here hunting and camping since 1963 when I came up with my grandparents, and Island Park is a special place. And just because they have a reverence for Yellowstone doesn't mean we don't have a reverence for the location here. And I think that that's an unacceptable choice of, well, we'll screw up Island Park instead of screwing up the Yellowstone Park. I think you can have both developed properly and damage neither.
We think the park and ride areas outside would be very important to have, so that natural gas busing systems and facilities could be set up and assist the tourists throughout the park. And I know that buffalo taking pictures, squirrels taking pictures, any of those kind of things that people want to take pictures of, there should be areas where they can get off of a bus, do their thing, and then catch the next bus coming through.
This whole idea of the bus tours being the main way to get in and out of the park, and to have places where people can be dropped off so they can view the animals, and then the next bus along will pick them up and, you know, and continue on their way. That seems a little silly to me because the animals are never where they're supposed to be.
Park and ride areas need to be utilized by all operations of the park, all facilities, including the facilities that are there.
Down at Zion's National Park, they bus, during the summer months, I believe it is, that they bus people around because they don't want the number of cars going through the park. And I really don't want to see that happen with Yellowstone. I know there's a lot of cars in there, but I like to take my own vehicle in, go spend the day, you know, doing whatever I want to do in there.
I think Greg Walker is totally correct. You know, I mean, we like to go with our families and do our own thing, and we don't want to set it up so that somebody else determines when we come and when we go. And to us, it seems to be like herding us like cattle.
We think Trails to Yellowstone Resort condo hotel operations is part of the answer. We believe that RV facility areas is the second part of that answer. We also believe that the perimeter of the complex would need to be secured from wildlife and as well from the people.
And then they're going to pen them like cattle and then run them down a chute and get them over to Yellowstone. So it kind of goes against most of our grain. You know, people that live up here like the free life, and you know, being penned in isn't exactly that. So it's, you know, it's a little bothersome for us.
There needs to be a variety of restaurants. You have some here, and your first thought is, oh my gosh, these guys are going to promote all kinds of business, and it's going to divide the business up more. We're going to divide the pie up to the extent that we don't have enough to go around. That's not true. The old saying, the rising tide raises all ships, that really is the case here.
A couple times during the meeting, the slogan was used, rising lake floats all boats. Well, that's true if you don't own the lake. And the problem is that the people that are building trails in Yellowstone want to own the entire lake and control everybody that comes in here, except for the people in cars. But then they want to turn around and reduce the number of cars that come into Yellowstone, so they are actually reducing the traffic for the other merchants while they're increasing the traffic for their own benefit.
From what I've heard from you, you're talking about anywhere from 300 units to 1,500 units.
Which is a possibility.
I assume these people will fly into Salt Lake or Idaho Falls, be bused up Highway 20, which is a tough road to travel on in the summertime as it is without any more buses. They will stay at your location, and then they will be transported to Yellowstone for a day trip or 2-day trip or 3-day whatever, and then transported back to your facility, then transported back to Idaho Falls or Salt Lake.
If you have 300 condo rooms and you have an average of 4 people staying in each room per night, that's 1,200 people. Now a bus carries about 55 people. So you're looking at 22 buses to service the people that are involved. But then you've also got some people that are being shuttled away, to Salt Lake or, wherever, besides the ones going to the park. So, my guess is there's probably about 30 buses total involved in the operation. Now that's 30 buses per day coming and going. So that's 60 buses a day using Elk Creek. And you can imagine, how busy that would make that intersection. But their overall plan, if they get what they want, this starfish model that they're looking at, they're talking 5 times that. And if they get 5 times that many people, they're going to end up with 6,000 people a day, and they're going to end up with about 150 buses coming and going. Can you imagine 150 buses pulling out of Elk Creek per day to go somewhere, and then 150 at night pulling back in? Can you imagine the congestion and the mess that would cause for anybody else trying to travel this area?
I have this question. All these tourists that are going to come, how will they affect the ecosystems in Island Park, like Big Springs, Henry's Lake, the reservoir, any of these other areas that are already, Big Springs is crowded. Any day in the summer you can walk on the heads of people right across the river.
Yeah.
You're going to keep them in their little confined area? You said you have a fence around it,
What?
so you electrify it.
What we are saying tonight, what we would like to see in the optimum are folks, rather than staying in the park, staying outside the park, using the amenities out here, and then doing this.
We've already had enough pressure on our elk between the grizzly bears, which are overrunning, the other bear population here, and the wolves that they've introduced. Our elk are already under a tremendous amount of pressure, and that flat land over where you want to put this thing is prime elk habitat, and then you're going to push them out. And the thing is, you don't just push them out to the boundaries of your property, but those elk aren't going to graze right against your fence. They're going to be pushed out farther and farther away, and it's going to cause them more and more problems. And the thing is, we value our elk habitat just as much as you value the elk habitat over at Palisades. And imagine how many elk and moose would get hit with that volume of traffic from those buses.
Hi, my name's Connie Funkhauser, and my husband and I have owned the Island Park Lodge for the last 21 years. You made a couple comments that you plan on turning Island Park into a year-round resort. Island Park, and Yellowstone, we are seasonal. We have 2 severe mud seasons.
I appreciate what you brought, the point that you brought about the mud season. The winters that I loved up here, we went really well until the mud season, then everything just shut down. So I know full well.
we have no clue what to do during mud season. So that was about all I got out of that exchange.
What's your main purpose? Is it to provide housing and a stopover for Yellowstone Park? Is that what you're going
Main-
to promote?
Yes, well, let me tell you the main purpose is to save Yellowstone Park.
No, the main purpose of Trails to Yellowstone, like all businesses, is to turn a profit. And they can piggyback on Yellowstone Park and make their venture more attractive than somebody else's. But their purpose is not to preserve Yellowstone Park, because if that was the case, they'd do it for free, and that's not happening.
If we have these businesses outside of the park, we bless the people in and limit the amount of vehicles going through the park, we can preserve it for our future relatives.
I guess my question is this our vision for the park, and do we want to participate in something that's not our vision?
My sense is if the land swap is approved, that the locomotive starts really flying down the tracks.
If you want to stop this project, the best time to stop it is before the land swap, because once the land swap has occurred, you're not going to be able to rein this in. So, if you want to get this stopped, stop it during the land swap.